All right, let's just jump right in. Welcome to our latest explainer, where we're tackling what neuroscientists generally agree is the single biggest mystery in science today. We are going to look at that complex 3-pound piece of matter sitting inside your skull and ask a seemingly simple question. Are you actually the conscious pilot of your own actions?
I mean, think about it for a second. Have you ever made a crystal clear decision in your head? Telling yourself, okay, I'm just going to watch 2 episodes tonight. And then suddenly it's 3 a.m., the laugh track is still playing, and you find yourself wondering, wait, why am I still watching this? Was that really my choice? It's a totally relatable moment, sure, but it actually hints at a much deeper mystery about who is really driving the ship. Section 1. The Illusion of Control. Throughout this explainer, we're going on an investigative journey into the hidden workings of the mind. And we're going to completely dismantle that intuitive belief that you have total conscious control over your life, your choices, and your body. Just think about this staggering number for a second. 90 billion. Your brain is made of almost 90 billion individual neurons. And yet, this massive, entirely decentralized network somehow manages to produce the incredibly convincing illusion that there is a single unified you sitting right behind your eyes, pulling all the strings. But as we're about to see, that feeling of unity is exactly that. It's an illusion. Section 2. Glitches in the system. So how do neuroscientists actually prove that consciousness isn't just a simple all-or-nothing switch? Well, they do it by looking at what happens when the brain goes completely out of sync. They study these bizarre glitches like sleepwalking. Sleepwalkers can perform incredibly complex motor functions. We're talking navigating a house, painting a wall, even cooking meals, all while entirely asleep. How is that even possible? Well, brain scans reveal that the regions controlling movement and vision are wide awake, but the prefrontal cortex, which is essentially your brain's CEO, the decision maker, and self-awareness center, remains locked in deep, slow-wave sleep. You are literally functioning without the conscious you even being involved. On the flip side, we have general anesthesia. When you go under, you don't just fall asleep. Your brain's communication network is fundamentally altered. Anesthetic drugs target key areas like the thalamus, which acts as a central way station deep inside the brain. By shutting down this specific communication hub, the vibrant, dynamic conversation between your different brain regions basically turns into an unintelligible, slow-rolling hum. It proves that consciousness isn't located in just one spot. It relies entirely on different brain regions successfully talking to one another. Section 3. The Divided Mind. Okay, so what happens when the 2 halves of your brain can no longer communicate at all? Let's explore the absolutely fascinating cases of split brain patients. The left and right hemispheres of your brain are connected by this massive bundle of fibers called the corpus callosum. Now, to treat severe epilepsy, surgeons sometimes have to completely sever this bridge to stop seizures from spreading. But by cutting this highway, researchers discovered an astounding reality. It basically leaves the patient with what appears to be 2 entirely separate minds operating within a single physical system. In most people, the left hemisphere contains the language and speech centers. It's the half that talks. The right hemisphere is vital for evaluating emotions and visual space, but here's the catch. It has no words. Normally, they share information instantly, but in a split-brain patient, this creates a wild dynamic, which was demonstrated perfectly in an experiment on a patient named Joe. Researchers took Joe and flashed the word Texas very quickly, but exclusively to his left visual field, meaning that visual information only went to his nonverbal right hemisphere. When the researchers asked Joe what he saw, his left brain, remember, that's the talking half, which truly hadn't received the information, honestly replied, "I didn't see the word." But here is where it gets crazy. The researchers then asked Joe to use his left hand, which is controlled by that right hemisphere, to draw a symbol of whatever he had seen. Without his conscious, talking mind having any idea why, his left hand just picked up a pen and perfectly drew a cowboy hat. His right brain knew exactly what it saw, even though his conscious self was completely out of the loop. The cooperation was happening right there on the paper, not inside his head. Section 4. Hidden emotional and social forces. Now, you might be thinking, okay, but my brain is fully connected. True, but let's shift our investigation to our everyday, healthy brains, because even without surgery, there are hidden emotional and social forces secretly pulling the strings of our daily decisions. Our brains are constantly trying to balance selfish impulses with social cooperation. Think of a region called the insula as your brain's thermometer, detecting gut feelings, like the guilt you feel when you're being selfish. That information gets sent to the prefrontal cortex, which acts as your brain's thermostat, regulating your behavior based on those feelings. And we know this balance is physical because of Phineas Gage, a 19th century railroad worker who tragically had an iron rod blown straight through his prefrontal cortex. His memory and motor skills? Totally fine, but his thermostat was completely destroyed. He instantly transformed from a highly respectful foreman into a profane, impulsive man with absolutely no filter. His very personality and morality were physically altered. And it gets deeper. The hidden forces controlling us go beyond our own lifetimes, stretching way back into our family tree. Take researcher Bianca Jones-Marlin's work on epigenetics. She paired the smell of almonds with a mild shock in mice. As expected, the mice physically adapted, actually growing more almond-detecting receptors in their noses. But remarkably, the offspring of those mice, the very next generation, were born already possessing those extra receptors, despite never being shocked themselves. It powerfully illustrates that the trauma and environments of our ancestors can physically rewire our brains before we're even born.
Section 5. Testing your sense of agency. Okay, so if our behavior is shaped by hidden biology, our ancestors, and unconscious brain regions, are we actually the authors of our own physical actions? Let's build up to a climax here and really put your sense of agency to the test. Neuroscientist Rhys Moss conducted this mind-bending experiment. He hooked a participant up to a TMS device, basically a strong magnet that safely hacks the motor cortex and physically forces a participant's finger to move. The participant was asked to voluntarily choose when to move their finger, but by reading the brain's electrical signals, the researchers could actually predict the movement milliseconds before it happened, and they perfectly timed a magnetic pulse to hit right as the participant made the conscious choice. So the researcher asks, who initiated the movement? The shocking result here. Even in the instances where the participant actually did consciously decide and initiate the finger movement themselves, that subtle magnetic interference completely disrupted their brain's feedback loop. The participant reported feeling no agency at all, fully believing a computer had moved their finger. It proves that your feeling of free will, your core sense of agency, is actually incredibly fragile and surprisingly easy to manipulate.
Section 6. The power of letting go.
I know, the fragility of free will can sound a bit terrifying. But as we resolve this journey, I want to pivot to something wonderfully positive. There's actually an incredibly empowering upside to relinquishing conscious control. Researchers put a professional freestyle rapper, Chris Emdin, inside an MRI scanner. First, they had him perform a pre-memorized rap. Then they gave him a prompt and asked him to spontaneously improvise. When he started freestyling, the scanner showed something amazing. His prefrontal cortex, that self-monitoring decision maker we talked about, rapidly deactivated. By shutting down his brain's thermostat, he stopped overthinking. His conscious self-monitoring completely dropped, and he entered a state of pure, unscripted flow where his creativity absolutely peaked. And as neuroscientist Charles Lynn points out, this applies to all of us. He says, when you start trying to put conscious control mechanism, your performance goes down, you get worse. Think about a pro free throw shooter. If you suddenly offer them $1 million to make a single shot, they inject conscious control over a deeply practiced subconscious skill, and they choke. Whether you're playing jazz, painting, or playing sports, letting your brilliant unconscious just take the wheel is often the absolute secret to high performance. Our daily life is unscripted. Your brain is a beautifully complex, decentralized ecosystem of 90 billion neurons working in a delicate dance, mostly entirely outside of your awareness. So I'll leave you with this to ponder. If your brilliant unconscious mind actually does its very best work unscripted, are you ready to finally let go of the illusion of control?